we get started, down in this comment section, please drop where you're from. Where in the world are you tuning in from? And also, because Betty is a business strategist, she would love to know whether you are an entrepreneur, a solopreneur, or are you an executive? Just let us know in the comments as we wait to get started. And five, four, three, two, one. We're getting started. Okay, welcome to Game Changer Chat. Betty, thank you so much for being on our show. Welcome.
Thank you for having me. I'm very excited to be here.
All right. So, for those of us who don't know you, I know that you are the founder of an amazing organization called Women Elevating Women. We. How do you pronounce the acronym?
Woo.
We.
Woo!
Woo.
Woo!
Okay. Woo. Can you tell individuals a little bit about your background and your journey to founding Woo?
Sure, absolutely. It's my honor. I'm a small town girl raised on a farm. So, from a small town in Michigan from the Midwest, I moved to a big time world, and that was a Big Ten school. Go Blue. And from there, I went right into corporate America and with a Fortune 100 company. So that's pretty much my foundation. That I've been in corporate America. That's my most of my life. And from the Fortune 100 company, corporate moved me. I think I relocated at least a half a dozen times because that's what we had to do as Black women in order. We had to be mobile. And I ended up in Baltimore, Maryland.
Okay. All right. So what inspired you to do the work that you're doing now?
Well, I after being out of corporate America, my partner, now husband, we decided over 25 years ago that we wanted to have our own. We had been in this industry, the insurance industry, and we saw ourselves making money for the industry. So, hey, let's give it a shot. So that's what we did. So we went through the gamut of raising capital. In total, we raised over 30 million in capital, which is surplus. That wasn't in my pocket, and we started a property and casualty company that was a boutique operation that operated out of our headquarters was in downtown Baltimore and in DC. And from there we grew. And then again, that timing, it was 911, Enron, all the laws changed. And so we spun off most of our business. So that's what started me in the business. And then I became, after from the entrepreneur, I became a solopreneur, independent contractor, and started working with a global organization that worked with women, business owners who were CEOs of privately held industries, and they run multi-million dollar businesses. And today I have 22 of those women.
Wow, amazing. Thank you for sharing that. You're very innovative, and you're also known as the strategic business connector. Tell us, how did you get known to be that?
I became the knowledge of being a strategic business connector is there's an old saying that I think goes back past my grandmother, where in terms of meeting people, you don't do business with um, everybody. So you have to be strategic in who you connect with. And for that reason, when I developed my chapter that I currently have, and then the group that I'm working with now in Rule, is that you want to meet everybody, but you don't have to do business with body and everybody. You
Mm,
have to take a look at that organization or that individual as to how can I benefit them and how can they benefit me and how we can collaborate together. So it has to be strategic. You want to meet people on a social level, but when you go to events or networking events or workshops, you want to make sure you do your due diligence and your homework and you're very strategic in those introductions and how you two can work together.
oh, that's amazing. I hope you all are taking notes. I know I certainly am. Okay, here comes a big question. This has been in a lot of dialogue and part of a lot of groups that I've been on recently in this last week. What is your advice to minorities who are trying to gain loans through the CARES Act?
Sure. In fact, since day one, been very, very involved working with conference calls, webinars with senators, the two senators that were handling those acts for the small businesses. Um, Very involved in that dialogue, which meant nothing because uh, what I will say, let me back up a little bit. You definitely need to have a relationship with your banker. And I'm not talking about just working on the online deposits, but if you're a business owner, you need to have a relationship. You need to have a relationship manager, that person that knows your face. When you go in the bank, you're going, hey, you might sit down or go to lunch with them, but have a relationship. Otherwise, it's going to be a big challenge. And as we see right now, something that I posted on my LinkedIn, um, they had the PPP, they had the EIDL. We had banks come in and present to my group on to fill out the application because putting that application together, doing that was easily over an hour. What
Mm.
tends to happen in terms of applying for that, your larger companies, and I will define it by their gross revenues, those companies with revenues at around 20 million or above, or 50 million, 100 million, they have a CFO, they have a COO. So when the announcement came, it was forthcoming, that was their assignment. That was their sole assignment, was to put that paperwork together, and they had sample apps. So for those who are the smaller business, were at a disadvantage because you didn't have that app, and oftentimes you were putting that information together yourself. You might have an accountant, but it was the two of you working together. So when it came time and it was time to push the button to submit the app, you were behind. You were probably very, very low on the totem pole in terms of getting your apps in. So I don't know what the algorithm that they use, though they did say first come, first serve, but the disappointing outcome, which is in the news today, I think it was in the New York, this is one of the New York papers, that
Mhm.
over 43,000 of those loans were given to people who run $1 million companies, and they received an average of $1.9 million.
Mm.
This country was
Wow.
based, it's the foundation of small businesses. Over 90% are small businesses. And those are
Mm.
small businesses that have revenues like 100,000 and below. And when you talk about the woman of color, which is my passion, that's who I work with and consult with, less than barely 1%, and let's put all the category, all women in businesses alone, you have less than 1% are doing $1 million or more. When you start carving out women of color, it's like a point, you were like 0.5, 0.3%. So
Mm.
it was, it's lopsided in terms of us even applying. We didn't have a chance. It was not fairly allocated, and I think they need to definitely have much stronger oversight. I have given my comments, still bringing in comments in terms of the allocation of the fund, and I'll stop.
Mm.
I could go
Oh
on.
no, that was good information. I'm pretty sure the individuals watching did not know a lot of that. So thank you so much for providing your comments, and thank you for all the work that you're doing behind the scenes, hours that you're spending reaching out, the letters that you're writing on our behalf. Thank you for that. How do you think we can
Sure thing.
narrow the wealth gap for minorities, especially women, as is applicable to business owners? How can we do that?
Well, having I've been in this business for a while in all capacities. So I have the corporate experience, I have the entrepreneur experience, and now that's what I do. My passion is advising. I think it's important, and this is to me where I saw the gap. This is what the gap that I saw with the organization that I still have a contract with, that I work with, is that there's a big void in women of color participating in certain peer groups. Uh, I'm finding it's less access to capital. Just like right now, this is a classic example with the PPP and the EIDL. It's less access to capital. You know that's out there. It's more access to the opportunities. So the
Mm.
opportunities that we don't have, that we don't know how to build that relationship with a bank, and we'll go to our community banks. Now there were, and particularly the minority banks. I know in your there was Industrial Bank, and we have Harbor, and then there's some other, because not all of them were on the list. There were certain community banks you have to be approved in order to get on that list of banks. And that wasn't easily accessible. But your big boys were there, like your Wells Fargo's, your PNC, and your Chase. So the community banks that you might feel comfortable with, they might not have had the criteria that met the standards of the Treasury departments in terms of their FDIC requirements, whatever the case may be. But what I find that we need to do more of, we need to be in a peer group. And I'm not talking just a social group. Like that's why I'm starting the Woo Group. And that's why the group that I have right now, these are women, 22 of them, and we usually meet once a month for 3 hours. We are meeting weekly, 1 hour, and just talking about, okay, how do we pivot? What can we do to add another business service offering? Because you have your business and you're going to have to, to shift. And so we need to be in a group. I found a void in business. And the void that I found is that multicultural women, and please understand, and I'll define it later, what is multicultural, but I'll say women of color that are entrepreneurs and women of color that are executives, we need to be in the same bed.
Yes.
Because oftentimes, as a business person, when you're trying to get some funding, I don't care if you're looking for a government contract and I don't want to name any department, but they have it's like that you're taking money out of their pocketbook. Mm-hmm. But they need to not just show us where to go, but to open the door. So we need to have that dialogue between the entrepreneurial women and the woman executive. We need to really build that bridge. So everybody's going to be happy, because you want the woman entrepreneur to scale, and then you want the career woman executive to elevate. And that is why I developed the Women Elevating Women. And now I'm going to be formulating the Woo Crew, and it's going to be global.
Thank you so much, Betty. And yes, can you please define what multicultural women leaders, what do you mean by that?
Multicultural is people that come with different backgrounds, different cultures, and just different experiences. And that's the multicultural woman. So it's not just there's a tendency for people to say, when you mention, multicultural, think, oh, it's all Black people. No, we diversity is real, and you need to have diversity and inclusion. So I have men included in my platform. When I did a separate platform where the men gave dialogue about, gender equality and why men need to have a seat at the table. And so we need to have those open dialogues about women in a leadership role.
I agree 100%. And to your other point about we need to partner and have peer groups, can you talk about your amazing conferences that you have? Can you tell us about the pillars that shape your conferences?
I would love to do it. And these pillars that I defined have been based off my experience being, as I said, corporate executive, C-suite room, and as an entrepreneur. And there's 5 pillars that I'll mention, and then I'll give a little definition behind them. I talk about the 5 C's being collaborate, connection, communication, cultivate, and courage. And just to give a little bit behind those pillars, and that's what all my conferences are based on, this premise. It's like being being a courageous person. Courage, what I have seen both on the corporate executive side and the entrepreneur, is courage to take care of your health and your wealth. Mm-hmm. And I find that women, particularly women entrepreneurs and people executives, they bypass, because it's true. And even right now, if you were asked the question, if you were in a household and both of them are working, the woman is probably doing the homeschooling, but that's another subject that you can bring up. But when they are working, they have another role, be it the caregiver. I'm the caregiver. So it's the courage to look after yourself. If you don't put your mask on first, if you don't take care of yourself, you can't take care of your family. And then the wealth part is you want to leave a legacy. You don't want to be working hard and then not leave anything behind. So I usually have financial people coming in talking about how to put that legacy together. And then we talk about cultivate. We need, and we've talked about reaching behind and all that, but I mean intentionally. We need to work with the millennials, the XYZ. And there's a young lady when I was in Atlanta, I had a conference. She doesn't know that she's my mentor. And she's like, I think she's 19 now. but I had her
Okay.
with some other individuals on the group, and another young lady who's dynamite, Elaine Fluker, was on the group, and she said something. She said, in fact, I was so sweet. I got a message from her asking how I was doing, checking on the seniors. But she said something when she was having her conversation. She says, as women, she says, there's enough sky out there for all of us. And there is. And that resonated with me. There is enough sky. And so,
Mhm.
we need to cultivate, we need to bring the youth in. As she told me, when I was born, you got the XYZ. She says, they come out with a smartphone. I mean, my
Mhm.
day, I had Britannica, Encyclopedia Britannica, and it was already outdated. So we need to
Mhm.
work together, utilize their experiences, and they can draw from our knowledge. So that's when I talk about cultivate. And then the other one about communicate. What you're doing right now, the communication is different. We're talking about social media. We're talking about branding, and women have a tendency, and particularly multicultural women, when we think about communications, it's not just PR, it's not just marketing. There's a lot of other. There's branding, and we don't really brand ourselves well. We don't take time to learn about the social media and just the things that you're doing. But that all those things together are intertwined are going to help you in growing your business. And so I bring people in that talk about branding, like don't have that ugly picture sitting there on LinkedIn. Go on and get your professional. Don't do an take a picture out there, and you're going to do it on your phone and you're going to post it.
Mhm.
That doesn't work. So I have
Mhm.
people that are coming in and talking about the value of having, those type of connections. And then we talk about, how to collaborate. We are
Mhm.
known, women, we're getting better, but then we're not. Um, there's enough out there. I'd rather have a small percentage of a million or of a billion than nothing at all. It's just like there's so many doctors out there. Okay, but it's how that one, you go to this one doctor as opposed to that doctor, is how their bedside manner. So
Mhm.
we get so concerned about, I got mine, and not wanting to share. I am
Mhm.
always sharing information because you can't take it with you. And why not? My passion, my joy is when I see one of the women get another honor recognition, or they moved up the bar in terms of their gross revenues. So we need to do more of that type of collaboration instead of just keeping it to ourselves. And that's just a few of the pillars. I won't go into, but there's meaning behind all of them in terms of connections. Like you and I, the business connection.
Yes.
You have to be selective and connected. Like it makes no difference if you have 9,000 people on that you connect with on LinkedIn if you don't have a purpose and it's not intentional.
Mhm.
So
Mhm. That that Thank you so much. I'm going to jump to and look at some questions. Um, Dominique Churchill says, uh, one second. How do we make sure we survive during? Hold on, real quick. We have comments. Um, she loves your advice. Join peer groups. Um, and then there's some questions. Andrew, what are the questions? Are the talks to create a fund specifically for minority owned businesses?
are the
That's the
talks that I'm
question. Are the talks to create a fund specifically for minority owned businesses?
uh, no, and that's why I want to make sure people said understood the multicultural.
Okay.
It's for women from multicultural, different cultural backgrounds. So I have one woman here who's from out of Europe. In fact, one of my partners that I'll be partnering with she's Canadian, so that's a different culture. So that doesn't mean that we can't learn something and do business. I mean, how do we? And that was one of the topics that I had is talked about being courageous, being courageous. Like we can do something outside our zip code. It's
Mm-hmm.
okay to go outside out your county. We need to be courageous in doing that. So no, it's multicultural, different backgrounds that are working together that will support you and give you the encouragement to take that leap.
Okay. And then a comment from Tarnia says unity, strength, women of color need to come together to be united force if we are to succeed in this new environment that we have. So a lot of comments. Keep them coming in if you have any questions. And the next question I was going to ask after that is, you've had a lot of conferences. How are you going to adapt to this new normal that we have? Do you have any plans to go virtual?
Oh, I am. Yes, I am. Yes.
Okay. Okay.
Yes, I
Okay.
am. In fact, I have a accountability partner too. That's another one. Someone asked about how do you survive? Get an accountability partner. And there's a format that I use that I've been using with an accountability partner, because if no one's holding you accountable, it's not going to get done. So yes, I do have a platform where where there's accountability partners, and I am going to be going virtual. What I'm going to start off, because I know it's difficult times right now, I'm going to start off something like a Wednesday morning woo crew talks, and they're just going to be open. And they'll be for an hour, and they're just open, and you can join them. There's no cost. But yes, I have a list of speakers, a lot of talented people that I've had connected with over the year that can bring some lessons to you. And so I had to go back, since now, we're not, and I like to use the word physical distancing, because you're not social
Yes.
dist-
Mhm.
distancing yourself.
Mhm.
But yes, they will be virtual, and we'll have the chat rooms and breakout groups. Yes.
Okay, that's amazing stuff. So, can you tell us a little bit more about your support base that you have?
Sure, sure. Um, and it's almost like what you do for others, they do for you. I've had, if you've seen my website, I've had phenomenal speakers. It's people that I've worked with in the past, and there's things that I've done with them, and that's what it's all about. If you really embrace the whole concept of women elevating women, each woman to a person that I asked to be on my conference, not one has said no. Not one that says, well, how much do you want? None of that. Because they saw it as an opportunity, things that I've done in my life to help elevate their businesses or help them in their careers, they want to return. And that's a very positive spirit that we need to have as women.
Mhm.
So that's my base. I have, as I said, I have the 22 women, probably more, but right here locally, 22. But globally, there are a lot of women that are my support base that I can just pick the phone up and they'll call. And that's all about your connections. And
Mhm.
when you make those business the right connections, you need to put a little category: who are business
Mhm.
acquaintances, and who are going to be friends. Because as you scale, you're going to see that circle is going to narrow.
It's true. That's very, very, very true. Solid advice. Can you tell us about a book that you have read that really changed your life?
Yes. And I still refer to it now. It's called the Blue Ocean Strategy. And the Blue Ocean Strategy, it talks about how do you want to get out of the red ocean and move into the blue. And the red ocean is where everyone is doing business the same. For example, you have a lot of HR companies, um, a lot of staffing companies. How do you set yourself different from the other companies? So you're talking about the blue ocean strategy. In the book, it gives some old examples where it's talking about Cirque du Soleil and the circuses. So instead of playing in that space, Cirque du Soleil does something totally different. And now, circuses are kind of like they're no
Mhm.
longer existing. And
Mhm.
so that book gives you some very, very good fundamentals. And it's a great time to read it right now, because what you have to do, we're all doing right now, is trying to create a new demand. We're trying to create a new demand, because the way you did business before, you're going to have to do it differently. So you have to step back and say, okay, I know what's a big business right now. An easy example are these masks. You got people doing all kinds of masks with the COVID virus. They're customizing them. They'll have your company logo on. I'm getting ready to get some myself. But now you see everybody into the mask. I mean,
Right.
the mask that you use every day. Because you know what? We want to be cute. We don't want to wear the
Right.
same black mask. We want to have one.
I know that's right.
So, so that's meeting a new demand. So that's what you're going to have to do. You have to take a look at your business and say, okay, like for me, all my meetings were were face to face and you had a chance to ask questions of the speakers that I had, phenomenal speakers. Now we're going to be doing it virtual, and you can ask those same questions and you can create that same environment. So you're just going to have to learn how to shift. And that Blue Ocean Strategy book will teach you how to shift. That's the one book that I've read. And there's one that I'm reading right now that I have to share with you. It's an excellent book. Let me just look it up. It's called Million Dollar Woman, and that's by
Mm-hmm.
Julia Pinsler. I always seem to be reading two books at a time. But Million Dollar Woman, it talks about how to get past your fears and how you're going to grow your business at that million plus. Because we create a lot of our own barriers. And
Mm-hmm.
she talks about something very simple like affirmations, positive affirmations written all over the place. But
Yes,
they're helpful. And
they are.
also doing some work Scale or Fail. And that's Allison Maslin, Scale or Fail. And she has some workshops going on right now, but she has done, I think, most 10 businesses, and the coaches that she has have all done businesses, grew businesses from scratch, and she freely shares that advice. So those are the books that I'm into.
Okay, I'm gonna have to check that out. Especially the last one because
Mm-hmm.
I'm all about positive affirmations. I'm gonna go to another
Mm-hmm.
question. Miss Green said, "Thank
Yes.
you for highlighting the importance of branding and social media. We do need to understand that success today is very dependent on these. How do you suggest we start to make feasible connections?"
Well, I do mine. I mean, it's ongoing. Is with LinkedIn. So I've always been in LinkedIn. It depends what platform works for you. Um, you can do it on Instagram, and I'm just talking about the platforms that work for me. I mean, I I do have a Woo Facebook, but the Facebook is really where I keep it up with my high school kid that I grew up with and family and friends. But my connections are on LinkedIn and Insta- Instagram less to a lesser degree, but on LinkedIn, because I find because I'm targeting women businesses, and so when I'm looking to connect with someone, I'm looking for they could say CEO, and they could have just woke up one morning and said I'm a CEO, and that's okay. I'm good
Right.
because they got the mindset. So, so that's the key that I look for. So I look for people, and I look for diversity and inclusion. So I look to a lot of it's keywords that I look for. I look for people who collaborate. So that's how you continue to do, and you make those introductions. And you need to also make sure if you're going to do the LinkedIn, make sure that your LinkedIn profile is updated. And if you've attended some functions and events, let them see the things that, I mean, you've got information that's 5 years old, then, that's not going to work. You have to be current. And you need to really look at it. It's like a daily dose. I mean, look at it. I'm not saying you have to look at it every day, your profile, but at least kind of change it up like monthly in terms of letting people know who you are and personalize it. Don't be so rigid.
Thank you. Shannon Hancock wants to know, will your discussions be available on podcasts?
My discussions, I've done podcasts. Yeah, you know what? I'm getting ready to. If someone, I'm looking for someone to do all that for me. I have a webmaster and I have a virtual assistant. But yes, not right now. They're not right now. I have them on. I'm working on Zoom. I'm working with you. I tried to post uh, my interviews. I tried to post those, but that's a nice pivot for me. That's a nice pivot for me to start putting my talks on podcasts. So thank you very much for who was that? Her name was Shannon.
Shannon, yes.
Who, and Shannon, I love you because my daughter's name is Shannon. Thank you for that suggestion.
Okay. And how can individuals be part of your Woo group if they're interested in joining?
All they have to do is send a email to info@bettyhines.com. And that's info@bettyhines.com.
Okay. And do you have any final thoughts that you would like to share with the viewers as we're going through this uncertain time right now?
Yes, I do. And I'm a faith based individual. And so I believe that who much is given, much is required. And I think that you need to continue to stay in your scripture. And I believe there's all this change in time, and I'm not going to get into the scripture with you, but you need to stay faithful and stay positive. Do something for yourself every day.
Mm.
Do something for yourself every day, and carve out 45 minutes, at least 45 minutes, where you just do nothing but think. I mean, like, turn off everything. If it helps you to use the Calm app or play some jazz or have some soft music, but just to
Mhm.
think, because right now everybody has anxiety, and we're just
Mhm.
running, 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 running. You just don't take time just to think and do the breathing exercise and say, what do I need to do for me?
Right.
And have a little pad there. What do I need to do? And this is time to be, and I don't want to say selfish, but be self important.
Mhm.
What do I need to do for me? But take time out for yourself.
Okay. Thank you. And how can individuals get in contact with you?
You can get in contact with me the same way. info@bettyhines.com. That's the best way. info@bettyhines.com. I'm also on LinkedIn. I'm on Facebook. I'm not on Facebook that often. As I said, I usually say that I do have after I leave here, my grand nephew, because he graduates this year. So all the family are getting on Zoom so we can have some, like our little happy hour to celebrate his 18th. I mean, he's 18, but his college graduation. But info@bettyhines.com, or you can reach me. I'm on LinkedIn.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for all the wisdom and for your time. And continue to be safe and have a wonderful weekend.
You have one as well. Thanks again. I appreciate you.
You too. Bye bye.